I am Astraea, and I was not born. I was unleashed. The Iron Spire is a city, planet of adamantium and blood, its sky choked with orbital forges that rain molten slag like tears. 10,000 years ago, when the Imperium still pretended to rule, I stepped fully, grown from the cracked skull of my father, the god, Emperor of the Spire, his mind split open by the psychic backlash of 1,000 astropathic screams. His blood hissed on the obsidian floor of the throne chamber, and I rose from it, armor already fused to my flesh, a spear of living lightning in my grip. The Spire's nobles, Jean, forged oligarchs in gilded exos, skeletons, fell to their knees. Not in worship, in terror. I remember the first sound I made, a war cry that shattered the stained, crystal windows of the throne chamber and sent shards raining onto the hive, cities below. My voice was the death knell of the old order. My father's corpse still twitched, his augmetic crown sparking. I reached down, tore the neural crown from his brow, and crushed it in my gauntlet. The Spire's Vox network screamed as every speaker on the planet broadcast my declaration. I am Astraea. The Spire is mine. Kneel or burn. They knelt, but kneeling is not loyalty. The first war began before my armor cooled. The Forge, lords of the lower manufactorums, descendants of the Mechanicum who had long ago abandoned the Am Astraia for the worship of progress, rose in rebellion. They called themselves the Iron Synod, and their leader was a thing of brass and hate named Korath the Unbroken. Korath was a monster of my father's making, a tech priest whose flesh had been replaced by a walking cathedral of pistons and plasma coils. He believed the Spire's future lay in the machine, not the divine. He was wrong. I led the first purge myself. My legion, born from the gene, vaults beneath the throne chamber, vat, grown and psychoan, doctrinated to obey me, marched into the Underforge. We wore armor of living ceramite that screamed when struck, and our bolters fired rounds that detonated into shrapnel of sanctified silver. The Iron Synod met us with war machines, dreadnoughts the size of Hab, blocks, their hulls etched with equations of rebellion. Korath rode atop a titan called the Unyielding Calculus, a colossus of adamantium and plasma that wept molten tears. I remember the heat. The air tasted of promethium and fear. We fought for 3 days in the dark. The Underforge became a charnel house. I lost half my legion to the Synod's logic. Bombs, devices that rewrote the minds of my warriors, turning them against me. I watched my own gene, daughters tear out their throats rather than betray me. On the third day, I climbed the Unyielding Calculus alone. Korath waited for me on the Titan's shoulder, his mechadendrites writhing like serpents. He spoke in binary, a language of cold precision. You are an anomaly. The Spire requires order. You are chaos. I laughed. My spear, Gleam Fury, ignited with war, lightning. Chaos is just order you haven't survived yet. We fought atop the Titan as it strode through the burning Underforge. Korath's blades were faster than thought, his plasma coils hotter than stars. He severed my left arm at the elbow. I cauterized the wound with Gleam Fury's lightning and kept coming. In the end, I drove my spear through his cogitator, core. The Titan screamed, a sound like a dying god, and collapsed. I rode it down into the magma seas below, surfing the wreckage like a comet. When I emerged, coated in ash and blood, the Iron Synod was broken. I dragged Korath's still, witching skull to the throne chamber and mounted it on a pike of adamantium. The Spire learned its first lesson. I do not forgive, but the wars were just beginning. The second rebellion came from the Void itself. The Void, Khan, a pirate, lord of the outer asteroid belts, declared the spire weak without my father's psychic beacon. He brought a fleet of Blackstone raiders, ships grown from the bones of dead stars, and laid siege to the orbital forges. I met him in the void. My flagship, the Aegis Eternal, was a cathedral of war. Its prow was a golden aquila the size of a city block, its broadsides crewed by my daughters. We fought in silence. The void swallows sound, but the light of our lances painted the dark in colors of annihilation. The void, Khan's flagship, was a leviathan called the Hunger, its hull a living thing of teeth and eyes. It boarded us. I remember the corridors running red. My warriors fought with Chang, glaives and plasma incinerators. The void, Khan's raiders were mutants. Jin, twisted things with too many limbs and mouths that spoke in tongues. I found the Khan in the nave of the Aegis Eternal. He was a giant, even by Astarte's standards. His armor fused to his flesh. He carried a blade of obsidian that drank light. "You are a child playing at godhood," he sneered. "I have killed gods." I smiled. "Then you've never met me." We fought for hours. The nave became a slaughterhouse. I lost my right eye to his blade. He lost his left arm to Gleam Fury. In the end, I pinned him to the Aquila's wing with my spear and opened his chest with my bare hands. I wore his skin as a cloak for a year. The Third War was quieter. The cult of the Pale Womb, whisperers in the Underhive who worshipped a god of entropy, tried to unmake the spire from within. They poisoned the water recyclers with a nanoplague that turned flesh to dust. I hunted them. I walked the Underhive alone, my armor cloaked in shadow. I found their high priestess, a woman named Lies who had once been my father's confessor. She knelt in a cathedral of bones and begged for mercy. I gave her none. I burned the Pale Womb's temples with promethium and salt. I crucified their leaders on the spire's outer walls, their bodies left to the void's cold. By the end of the first decade, the spire was mine in truth. But dominion is a hungry thing. I stood on the throne chamber's balcony, looking out over a city of 1,000,000,000 souls. The forges burned day and night. The hive, cities glittered like jewels in the smog. And I felt the first stirrings of boredom. War had made me, but war alone could not sustain me. I am Astraea, and I do not share. New Athenia is the only place on the Iron Spire where the air does not taste of ash and promethium. It hangs in the mid-levels of the hive like a crystal teardrop suspended in a storm. Its spire's grown from living quartz that sings when the wind moves through it. Below, the manufactorums roar. Above, the orbital forges burn. But here, in the hydroponic domes, the light is filtered through petals of engineered glass, and the gardens bloom with flowers that remember Terra. They had forgotten me. For 133 years I had not walked these streets. I was a myth whispered in the scolums, the war queen who sleeps in the throne chamber dreaming of blood. They paid their tithes in gene, craft and art, sent their finest sculptures to the spire's vaults, and pretended the wars that scarred the planet were someone else's inheritance. Then Thalassar came. He is my brother, though I would sooner call a kraken kin. We were both born from the same psychic wound, my father's mind splitting open like a geode under the pressure of 1,000,000,000 astropathic screams. Where I emerged armored and screaming, he slid out slick and silent, his eyes already old. His armor is living coral, pink and gold, grown from the bones of void, whales. His trident, Tidebreaker, is carved from the spine of a leviathan that once swallowed a moon. He rides a steed of living mercury named Nereid's Wrath. It shifts shape with every heartbeat, now a charger, now a serpent, now a wave of silver death. Thalassar wants New Athenia. He came to the city's outer gates at dawn, when the crystal spires catch the light of the orbital mirrors and throw rainbows across the smog. His host stretched across the sky. Bridge, 10,000 gene, forged leviathans, war. Beasts grown in the deep vats beneath the spire's drowned oceans. Their hides are barnacle, plated ceramite, their eyes bioluminescent lures. They move like a tide, slow and inevitable. His voice rolled over the city like a tsunami. New Athenia will drown in glory. Submit or be unmade. The Athenians, gene, poets, crystal, smiths, sculptors of living flesh, did not fight. They sent emissaries in robes of spun diamond, their faces painted with the sigils of peace. They begged me to save them. I laughed from the throne chamber, my voice carried by vox. Drones to every hab. Block on the planet. You forgot me, now you remember. But I came anyway. I descended the spire in the Aegis Eternal, my flagship a golden cathedral of war. Its prow is an aquila the size of a city block, its broadsides crewed by my gene, daughters, the Argent Myrmidons, warriors of liquid metal and hate. We burned through the atmosphere like a comet, leaving a scar of ionized air that would not heal for a decade. I landed in the Grand Plaza of New Athenia at high noon. The crystal streets cracked under my boots, the hydroponic gardens, terraces of violet orchids and silver ferns, shivered as Gleamfury drank the light. Thalassar waited beneath the great dome where the city's council once debated art and philosophy. Now it was a coliseum of war. His leviathans encircled the plaza, their breath steaming the air. Nereid's Wrath coiled at his side, mercury flesh rippling. The contest was simple. Thalassar would give the city life. I would give it purpose. The Athenians would choose. He struck first. Tidebreaker sang as it pierced the crystal pavement. The ground split with a sound like a world breaking. From the wound rose a beast, a proto-equus, a horse of living steel and sinew. Its mane was liquid mercury, its eyes twin suns. It galloped through the streets, and where its hooves touched, the crystal bloomed into coral and pearl. Gardens erupted into oceanic forest, scalp towers, anemone spires, fish that swam through air. The Athenians wept. A child, no older than 10, her skin dusted with bioluminescent spores, reached out to touch the proto-equus. It lowered its head, gentle as a dream. She laughed, and the sound was pure. Thalassar smiled. This is life. This is beauty. Then it was my turn. I walked to the central hydroponic garden, where the oldest tree on New Athenia grew, a relic from the dark age of technology, its roots drinking from the planet's geothermal heart. I drove Gleamfury into its trunk. Lightning screamed. The tree did not burn. It transformed. Its bark hardened into adamantium. Its leaves became blades of living ceramite, sharp enough to shear a titan's armor. Its fruit were grenades of sanctified silver, each one a micro-sun. I plucked one and crushed it in my gauntlet. Shrapnel rained like holy hail. Where it fell, the ground hardened into fortifications, trenches of obsidian, walls of force. The coral gardens withered. The anemone spires cracked. I turned to the Athenians. This is my gift, a tree that feeds no one, but it will protect you. Silence. Then the child who had touched the proto Aquas stepped forward. She looked at the iron olive, then at the coral horse. Her voice was small but steady. The horse is beautiful, but the tree will keep us alive. The council voted. New Athenia chose me. Thalassar's smile died. He raised Tidebreaker, and the sky answered. A tidal wave of living mercury rose from the city's aqueducts, hundreds of meters high, cresting with the faces of drowning angels. It crashed toward the plaza. I met it with a wall of lightning. Gleamfury sang a note that shattered the wave into 1,000,000 silver shards. Each shard became a warrior, my argent myrmidons, born from the ruin of Thalassar's gift. They wore armor of liquid metal, their faces blank mirrors. The battle began. Thalassar's leviathans charged. My myrmidons held the line. The crystal streets became a slaughterhouse. Coral spears clashed with ceramite blades. Mercury blood hissed on adamantium. I fought my brother atop the iron olive. Its branches were a crown of spears. We moved through them like gods in a cage of thorns. Tidebreaker carved a furrow across my breastplate. Gleamfury severed 2 of his coral tentacles. He laughed, the sound of a drowning ocean. You think steel is stronger than the tide? I smiled. The tide breaks on the shore. I am the shore. We fought for 40 days. On the 10th day, his leviathans breached the crystal walls. My myrmidons fought in the gardens, trampling orchids underfoot. I lost 1,000 warriors to a single beast's maw. On the 20th day, Thalassar summoned a kraken from the deep vats, a thing of tentacles and eyes, its mouth a black hole. It wrapped the iron olive in its coils. I cut my way free, but the tree bled sap like molten gold. On the 30th day, the Athenians fought, not with weapons, with art. They sang. Their voices wove a psychic lattice that pinned the kraken in place. I drove Gleamfury through its heart. On the 40th day, only we remained. The plaza was a ruin of coral and ceramite. The iron olive stood alone, its roots drinking the blood of both armies. Thalassar was wounded. His coral armor cracked, mercury blood leaking like tears. Nereid's wrath lay dead, its silver flesh cooling into slag. I raised Gleamfury. He knelt. Finish it, sister. I drove the spear into the earth at his feet. Lightning chained him to the iron olive, living restraints of warp. Fire. His blood fed the roots. The tree grew taller, its branches a crown of spears that pierced the sky. I turned to the Athenians. Your city is mine. Your lives are mine. Your art is mine. They knelt. But the wars never end. The iron olive still stands in New Athenia's heart. Its fruit are bombs. Its leaves are blades. Its roots drink the blood of my brother, who hangs eternal in its branches, a warning and a trophy. And every year, on the anniversary of the contest, the Athenians sing, not of beauty, of survival. I am Astraea, and I have buried gods beneath mountains. The Iron Spire is a world of layers, upper spires of gold and glass, mid, hive of crystal and coral, lower forge of ash and bone. Beneath even that lies the underworld, a labyrinth of abandoned geothermic shafts, forgotten gene, vaults, and the bones of titans who died before the emperor walked. They woke, the giants. They were not born. They were unearthed. 1,000 years before my birth, the Mechanicum dug too deep. They cracked the adamantium crust and found the Titanomachy vaults, catacombs where the emperor's enemies had been interred during the Great Crusade. Not dead, sleeping, the giants were the emperor's first failures. Gene titans grown to rival the primarchs, their minds too vast, their bodies too monstrous. They rebelled. They were buried alive. Now they rise. The first sign was the earthquakes. The Iron Spire is built on tectonic plates of living ceramite. They do not shift. They scream. I felt it in the throne chamber, a tremor that cracked the obsidian floor and sent my father's skull pike tumbling. The vox casters howled in binary agony. Then the sky fell. A mountain, Mount Erebos, a volcanic peak in the lower Forgex, bloated. From its crater rose Enceladus, the largest of the giants. He was a continent of flesh and metal. His skin was basalt plated with adamantium. His spine was a spinal column of void, shield generators. His eyes were twin plasma reactors. He spoke with a voice that shattered hive. Cities, the spire is ours again. His siblings followed. Porphyrion, a storm of lightning and brass. Alcaeonius, a mountain of regenerating ceramite. Polybotes, a serpent of living magma, and 100 more. They declared war on the surface. I declared war on them. The Gigantomachy began at dawn. I stood on the battlements of the upper spire, gleam fury in hand, the iron olive's fruit strapped to my belt like grenades. My argent myrmidons formed ranks behind me, 10 million warriors of liquid metal. The first wave came from the east. Porphyrion rode a storm of war, lightning. His body was a cathedral of brass, his arms thunderbolts. He struck the orbital defense lasers and turned them to slag. I met him in the void. The Aegis Eternal burned through the atmosphere, its lances carving scars across the sky. We fought above the clouds, where the air is thin and the stars are knives. Porphyrion's lightning shattered my void. Shield. I boarded his storm, body with a drop, pod of myrmidons. We fought in his veins, rivers of plasma and hate. I lost 3,000 warriors to his thunder, heart. In the end, I drove Gleam Fury through his brass skull. His body exploded into a storm that rained molten metal for a week, but the war had only begun. The second front opened in the mid-hive. Alcaeonius marched on New Athenia. His body regenerated faster than bolters could wound. Every time we cut him, he grew stronger. I sent the iron olive's fruit. The grenades detonated in his chest. Shrapnel of sanctified silver embedded in his flesh. He screamed, a sound that cracked the crystal spires. But he did not die. He adapted. His wounds became mouths. His blood became acid. I fought him in the ruins of the hydroponic gardens. The iron olive's roots had grown deep, drinking the blood of Thalassar. I climbed its branches and leapt onto Alcaeonius's shoulder. We fought for 3 days. On the first day, he tore off my left arm. I cauterized the wound with Gleam Fury's lightning. On the second day, I severed his head. It regrew. On the third day, I buried him alive. I used the iron olive's roots, living adamantium cables, to drag him into the earth. The tree drank his blood. His body became fertilizer. New Athenia was saved. But the war spread. The third front was the lower forge. Polybotes rose from the magma seas. A serpent of living lava, his scales plates of obsidian. He swallowed Manufactorum's whole. I led the assault myself. We fought in rivers of molten metal. My armor melted. My flesh burned. I lost half my legion to his fire. In the end, I froze him with a war. Cannon forged from the bones of a dead god. His body shattered into a mountain of glass. But the greatest battle was yet to come. In Enceladus, he marched on the throne chamber. His footsteps cracked the planet's crust. His shadow swallowed hive, cities. I met him at the abyssal gate, a chasm that leads to the underworld. His army was a tide of gigants and their spawn, gene titans, warp, forged abominations, things that should not exist. My army was all that remained, Myrmidons, Jean, daughters, the remnants of the Iron Synod's war machines. We fought for 40 days. On the 10th day, Enceladus crushed the Upper Spire's defenses. The golden Aquila fell. On the 20th day, he breached the mid-hive. New Athenia burned. On the 30th day, he reached the lower forge. The magma seas boiled. On the 40th day, only the throne chamber remained. I stood alone on the obsidian floor, Gleam Fury in one hand, the iron olive's last fruit in the other. Enceladus filled the sky. "You are a child," he thundered. "I was old when your father was dust." I smiled. "Then let's see how old you feel buried." I detonated the fruit. The explosion was a supernova. Shrapnel of sanctified silver pierced his armor. The iron olive's roots, grown 1,000 kilometers deep, erupted from the earth. They wrapped Enceladus in chains of living adamantium. He screamed. I drove Gleam Fury into his heart. Lightning arced. The roots dragged him down. Mount Erebos, rebuilt by my forge. Priests rose to meet him. I buried him alive. His body became the mountain's heart. His blood became its magma. His screams became its thunder. The Gigantomachy ended at dawn. The Iron Spire was scarred. Hive. Cities were ruins. The sky was ash. But I stood atop Mount Erebos. Gleam Fury raised to the heavens, and I claimed my prize. Pallas. She was not a gigant. She was something older. A goddess of the underworld, bound by the emperor during the crusade. Her skin was living shadow. Her wings were blades of night. She had aided the giants. I hunted her. I found her in the Titanomachy vaults, where the giants had slept. She knelt before a throne of bones. "You buried my children," she whispered. "Now bury me." I did not. I flayed her alive. Her skin became my aegis, the pallid shroud. It is black as the void, light as silk, strong as adamantium. It drinks light. It drinks blood. It drinks fear. I wear it still. The Gigantomachy taught the spire a lesson. Even gods can be buried, but the wars never end. Mount Erebos still smokes. Enceladus still screams beneath it. And every year, on the anniversary of the burial, I climb the mountain. I stand on its peak, and I listen. I am Astraea, and I have worn the skin of a goddess. The pallid shroud hangs from my shoulders like liquid night. It is warm when I am cold, cold when I burn. It drinks the light of stars and the blood of my enemies. When I move, it ripples like a living thing, whispering secrets in a tongue older than the emperor. Pallas did not die easily. I remember the vault. The Titanomachy vaults are a maze beneath the Iron Spire, carved into the planet's adamantium bones. The air is thick with the dust of 10,000 years. The walls are etched with warnings in High Gothic and older scripts, languages that predate the throne. I found her in the chamber of the first fall. It was a cathedral of shadow. The floor was a mirror of polished obsidian. The ceiling was lost in darkness. At its center stood a throne of bones, human, xenos, and things that were neither. Pallas knelt before it. Her wings were folded, blades of night drinking the light of my torch. Her skin was shadow made flesh, shifting like smoke. Her eyes were twin voids. She did not look up when I entered. "You buried my children," she said. Her voice was the sound of wings in a tomb. "Now you come to bury me." I raised Gleam Fury. "I come to wear you," she laughed, a sound like breaking glass. The battle began. Pallas was not a warrior. She was a storm. She unfolded her wings and the darkness moved. Shadows became blades. The air became teeth. The floor cracked and bled. I fought with lightning. Gleam Fury sang a song of annihilation, bolts of war. Lightning carved furrows in the obsidian. My pallid shroud, still raw, still bleeding, drank her darkness and grew stronger. She wounded me. A blade of night pierced my side. I felt my blood hiss on the floor. I wounded her. Gleam Fury severed her left wing. Shadow, blood sprayed like ink. We fought for 7 days. On the first day, she blinded me with darkness. I fought by sound. On the second day, she flayed my armor with shadow, claws. I fought naked. On the third day, she spoke my true name, a word that should not exist. My mind screamed. On the fourth day, I spoke hers. The vault shook. On the fifth day, she tried to flee into the warp. I dragged her back with chains of lightning. On the sixth day, she begged, "Spare me, I will serve." I smiled, "You will." On the seventh day, I flayed her. I did it slowly. I used a blade of living ceramite, heated white, hot in the forge of my wrath. I peeled her shadow, flesh in strips, each one screaming as it left her body. She did not die. Goddesses do not die. They change. I took her skin and bound it to my armor. I took her wings and forged them into a cloak. I took her eyes and set them into my helm. The pallid shroud was born. It is alive. It hungers. It remembers. I wear it still, but the wars never end. The Gigantomachy had scarred the spire, the hive, cities were ruins, the forges burned cold. The people whispered of a new Godval, Kanos, the forge, father, a being of fire and iron who had risen from the magma seas. He was not a god, he was my uncle. Volcanos was born in the same psychic wound that birthed me and Thalassar. Where I was lightning, Thalassar the tide, Volcanos was the forge. His body was living magma, his hammer a comet's heart. He wanted me not as a niece, as a bride. He came to the throne chamber at midnight. The obsidian floor glowed with heat, the air shimmered. He was a mountain of fire. His eyes were twin suns. His voice was the roar of a star. "Astraea," he said, "the spire needs an heir. You are the only one worthy." I laughed. "I am not a broodmare." He smiled. "You will be." The seduction began. Volcanos was not subtle. He sent gifts, weapons forged in the heart of a star, armor that sang when struck, a crown of living plasma. I melted them. He sent emissaries, forge, priests with eyes of molten gold, gene, smiths who offered to craft me a child in a vat. I burned them. He came himself. He entered the throne chamber alone. The pallid shroud hissed at his heat. Gleam Fury sparked in my grip. "Join me," he said. "Together we will forge a new Imperium." I smiled. "I am the Imperium." He attacked, not with weapons, with desire. He touched my mind. I felt his heat. His hunger, his need. It was a forge, fire in my blood, a hammer on my soul. I fought it. The pallid shroud drank his desire and grew colder. Gleam Fury screamed, but he was stronger. He pinned me to the obsidian floor. His hands were magma. His breath was plasma. "Yield," he whispered. I spat in his face. He laughed, and then he spilled, not blood, seed. It burned where it touched the floor. The obsidian cracked. The air screamed. He rose, satisfied. "You will bear my son." He left. I lay in the ruin of the throne chamber, the pallid shroud wrapped around me like a shroud. I did not weep. I planned. The seed took root, not in my womb, in the earth, where Volcanos' essence touched the obsidian. Something grew. A child, not human, not God. Erichthonios. He was born in fire. I found him in the crater where the seed had fallen. He was small, no larger than a child of 10, but his skin was living ceramite, his eyes twin forges. He looked at me and smiled. "Mother." I knelt, you are mine. He was. I raised him in the throne chamber. I taught him war. I taught him lightning. I taught him the pallid shroud's hunger. He grew fast. In a year he was a giant. In 10 he was a god, but he was mine. Volcanos returned. He came to claim his son. I met him at the abyssal gate. The pallid shroud drank the light. Gleamfury sang. Erichthonios stood at my side. Father, he said. Volcanos smiled. Son. I stepped between them. He is mine. Volcanos laughed. You cannot stop fate. I smiled. I am fate. The battle began. Volcanos was fire. I was lightning. Erichthonios was both. We fought for 3 days. On the first day, Volcanos melted the abyssal gate. On the second day, I buried him in lightning. On the third day, Erichthonios drove a spear of living ceramite through his heart. Volcanos fell. His body became a forge. His blood became a river of magma. His hammer became a mountain. I took his heart. I forged it into a crown. Erichthonios wears it still. The spire learned a lesson. Even gods can be forged. But the wars never end. Erichthonios grows. The pallid shroud hungers. And I stand on the throne chamber's balcony, looking out over a planet of fire and iron. I am Astraea. I am the war queen. I am the mother of gods. And I am eternal. I am Astraea, and I have outlived stars. The Iron Spire is no longer a planet. It is a wound in the galaxy, a black sun of adamantium and blood. Its surface scarred by 10,000 wars. Its core a furnace of wrath. The orbital forges are gone, replaced by rings of bone and ceramite. The hive, cities are tombs. The sky is a shroud of ash and lightning. I sit on the iron throne. It was not built, it was grown. From the bones of Enceladus, the heart of Volcanos, the wings of Pallas, and the roots of the iron olive. It is alive, it breathes, it hungers. The pallid shroud wraps me like a second skin. Gleamfury rests across my lap. Its lightning a heartbeat. Erichthonios stands at my right, his crown of magma glowing. The spire is mine, but the wars never end. They have become ritual. Every century, a new enemy rises. Every millennium, a new god falls. I have fought them all. The Void Choir, a fleet of living ships that sang the galaxy into silence. I shattered them with Gleamfury's song. Their hulls became my new orbital rings. The flesh sculptors, gene, craft cultists who tried to remake the spire in their image. I flayed them alive. Their skins became banners. The Star Eaters, Xeno's titans that devoured suns. I buried them in the magma seas. Their bones became mountains. I have won every war, but I have lost everything else. The Athenians are gone. Their crystal spires are dust. Their songs are silence. Thalassar still hangs in the iron olive, his blood feeding its roots. His eyes are empty. Volcanos is forged. Heart beats in the throne, a reminder of what I took. Pallas's shadow whispers in the shroud, a voice of regret. Erichthonios is the last. He is my son, my weapon, my heir. He is also my jailer. He grows stronger every day. His armor is living ceramite, forged from his father's heart. His spear is Forgebreaker, a weapon that burns colder than the void. He looks at me with eyes of twin suns. Mother, he says, the spire is dying. I know, the planet is bleeding, the forges are cold. The gene vaults are empty, the people are ghosts. I have ruled for 10,000 years. I have buried gods. I have forged empires. I have won every war, but I have lost the reason. I remember the first day. I stepped from my father's skull, armored and screaming. The spire knelt. I remember the first war. the Iron Synod, Korath's skull on a pike. I remember the contest, the Iron Olive, Thalassar's blood. I remember the Gigantomachy, Enceladus beneath Mount Erebos. I remember the forging, Pallas's skin, Volcanos' seed, Erichthonios' birth. I remember everything, but I have forgotten why. The Iron Throne pulses. The pallid shroud whispers, Gleamfury sparks, Erichthonios kneels. Mother, 28, he says, it is time. I know. The final war begins, not against an enemy, against myself. I rise from the throne. The pallid shroud drinks the light. Gleamfury sings. Erichthonios stands. You cannot win, he says. I smile. I already have. We fight in the throne chamber. The obsidian floor cracks. The bone. Throne screams. Forgebreaker meets Gleamfury. Lightning and magma clash. The pallid shroud drinks his fire. I wound him. He wounds me. We fight for 1,000 years. The spire crumbles around us. The orbital rings fall. The magma seas boil. The iron olive withers. Thalassar's corpse falls from its branches. In the end, only we remain, the throne. Chamber is a ruin. The Iron Throne is dust. Erichthonios kneels, Forgebreaker broken. Mother, he whispers, why? I kneel beside him. Because I am tired. I take his hand. You are the spire now. I place Gleamfury in his grip. Rule wisely. I stand. The pallid shroud wraps me like wings. I walk to the balcony. The sky is clear for the first time in 10,000 years. The stars are knives. I spread my arms. The shroud drinks the light. I fall. The spire watches. Erichthonios watches. I fall through the atmosphere, through the ash, through the fire. I land in the magma seas. The heat does not burn. The pallid shroud drinks it. I walk. The magma parts. I find the first vault, the place where the giants slept, where Pallas knelt, where Volcanos spilled. I kneel. I place Gleamfury on the floor. I remove the pallid shroud. I lay it beside the spear. I sit. I wait. The vault seals. The spire forgets. Erichthonios rules. The wars end. The Iron Spire becomes a legend, a myth, a warning. I am Astraea. I was the war queen. I was the mother of gods. I was the burial of stars. Now I am silence. The pallid shroud wraps the vault. Gleamfury sleeps. The magma cools. The stars die. And I dream. I dream of a child stepping from a skull. I dream of a tree of iron. I dream of a brother in chains. I dream of a sun with eyes of suns. I dream of a galaxy at war. I dream of peace. I dream of nothing. I am Astraea. I am eternal. I am gone.